everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to have a friend of mine from Alberta join in this conversation. So this is Vanessa Sim, and she is the Assistant Executive Director at Edmonton Centre of Hope. So the reason we're having this conversation today, Vanessa, although we should have had a Zoom meeting weeks ago just to connect, but the reason we're having this particular conversation today is because COVID and the pandemic has just changed our world, really, and brought new stressors and strains to our work life, our personal life, all that kind of stuff. And so tell us a little bit about what you do and what's been different at work since COVID.
Well, I'm currently, as you said, the Assistant Executive Director here at Edmonton Centre of Hope, and currently hold the portfolio of Director of Programs. So inner city work, supportive living work, treatment work, all of that type of good Salvation Army stuff that I get to be part of.
Nice.
What has been different? I think for me, probably not a lot has changed, in the sense that I have been working and coming to work almost every day. I've been trying to take one day at home to catch up on things, because for whatever reason, the world did change, and has been a lot going on, a lot of orders from the minister, a lot of protocols, a lot of, as most of our sites would know, just a lot of things that we need to have implemented. We have a health inspector popping by all the time. We have our licensing bodies popping by.
Wow.
So really a lot of checks, things, people that we would normally see, once a year,
Right.
twice a year, a pretty regular, ongoing, keeping us on our toes, which we have needed, because
Wow.
it's been a learning curve for all of us. So what has changed is obviously protocols around COVID, which most people would understand what all that means. And for me, probably not a lot, as we are essential services. That is what we are considered. We serve the vulnerable population. They are at high risk. And so not a lot has changed, other than the protocols surrounding that and trying to keep our residents and our staff on track.
Yeah. So just before we hit record, we were just talking about the interesting dynamic of COVID, that so many things stalled, but other things didn't stall. So just share with us a little bit about what stalled and what didn't stall for you during these last 4 months.
Well, I mean, in some ways the world stalled, and is still in a bit of a stall. My husband was diagnosed with testicular cancer kind of right before COVID hit.
Wow.
And it was a bit of a whirlwind. He had a test. He got the results on a Friday. We met with the surgeon the Tuesday. He had surgery Wednesday. So it was a very quick, just how those events happened. It happened quickly. I think because of COVID, we were able to have all this happen quickly, because so many things have stopped. All the elective surgeries stopped, so he got it really quickly. And then about a month following surgery, he started chemotherapy. So we're in the middle of this pandemic, and one of the things that I think has been challenging is that you're working in COVID and you go home to COVID. There's not really, for everyone, I'm saying that for everybody, it's not as though there's this break that as you leave work, you can leave work behind.
Right.
We all go home to dealing with COVID. And so one of the interesting pieces for us as a family was, during COVID and all of the weird protocols and kind of the weird temperature that is in, our culture right now, my husband has cancer. And so, you're navigating this new normal, or weird normal world that we live in right now. And yet life really just has continued. People say cancer is no respecter of persons, and it's not been a respecter of COVID. It didn't give us a break, during the time. So even though life has stalled in some ways, our personal life didn't stall, and we've been journeying through that piece. So my husband, Mike, had his last treatment on Friday.
Yay.
We're super excited about that. He's feeling pretty rough right now, but
Okay.
there's some end in sight to it. So maybe the positive side, as someone who is now immune compromised, who has undergone chemo, some of the strict protocols that are driving us all crazy has enabled him to remain safe. And
wow.
he has gotten ill, just as in a regular cold or flu or any of that. He has been, healthy other than the side effects of the chemotherapy. And I think the isolation in some ways worked in our favor during this time. So it is just this weird, and I'm sure there's many people that are still experiencing, real life in the midst of this odd space that we find ourselves in today.
Yeah. So it's interesting because what you're talking about is this layer of stress that COVID brought at work. And like you said, actually what you said, it's so true. It's not like you went home and there was no COVID. It was like, okay, so work stress, COVID stress, and then on top of that, the cancer. So kind of I would love for you to share, if you could, just what was kind of, as you look back, what were the moments where you had kind of this profound learning, either for yourself or life in general, or?
Well, I will certainly share, and I will try not to cry as I think about that question, because some thoughts quickly come to mind. I have really been challenged daily since this started. So when I say this, I probably mean more the cancer, yet COVID is so intertwined in there, it's kind of hard to separate them, is that as a Christ follower, the opportunity to live out my faith. And so I've been challenged, and God has been speaking, whether I'm doing my reflections, whether I'm reading a book, whether I'm watching the news, it doesn't really sort of matter where I'm turning. There's this challenge to, who am I as a Christ follower? What separates me from being a Christian? If, when the chips are down and life is stressful and life is hard, as a worship leader as well, what are the things that I have sung from that platform over and over? My hope is built on nothing less, God, you are good.
Yes.
And just having the opportunity to believe that and to live that out has been quite profound, and have not been able to get away from that urging of the Holy Spirit, or a smack from God. Sometimes it's a little more a little less sometimes I need things to be a little less subtle, and have just really not been able to get away from that. How am I different, and how am I living out my faith when there is trials and when there is tough times? Do I crumble? Do I, not that I haven't had bad days, not that I haven't cried, not that I haven't been frustrated or tired or sad for what my husband is going through, but am I living that differently? And so that is significant. I can't get away from it. So God has really been, I hope, shaping me, growing my capacity in the fruits of the Spirit, all of that good stuff. So it's been profound.
Yeah, wow. And what's interesting is, as you just articulate that moment of trying to live out all the things that I know I believe, and now I have to live that out in the context of suffering, or not even my own suffering, but the suffering of my spouse or a family member. And what is that like to live it out, all the things that I've been saying and teaching and preaching? And
100%.
It's so profound, isn't it?
It has been, yes.
Yeah.
Overwhelming and life-giving all at the same time.
Yes. Which is the paradox, isn't it? That sense of, oh, this is really hard, but you can kind of acknowledge at the same moment that it's a good hard, like it's an important learning, isn't it? Yeah. If you look forward 6 months, what are you hoping for?
Oh, well, I'm hoping that obviously my husband will be feeling better, that his
Hmm.
body will be healing and recovering well.
Yeah.
Work-wise, I would hope that the fallout of the isolation and the fallout of our programs, temporary closing and all of that would not have, I think, the mental health impact that they're predicting would happen.
Ah, okay.
That somehow we will be able to support people quickly,
Hmm.
in all of that. And that in 6 months from now, as I'm hoping we're slowly opening and reestablishing programs and reconnecting with
Right.
people, that the fallout will not be, or that our staff will be equipped to manage that fallout. So that's some of the stuff that we're working on. In the world here that we work in, addictions, mental health, supportive living, one of the things that we regularly work on is people not isolating, people
Mm,
find community, people being in connectedness with each other. And, we've done a complete 180. We've completely done the opposite for safety reasons and out of necessity.
right.
And so trying to regain again that momentum of having our clients and our community members re-engaging, I think will be a challenge, but hopeful that we'll be able to do that.
Yeah. I think you're on the right track. I think you're right. I think the concern is as we look 6 months down the road, what does isolation on a long-term basis, what does that look like? And how do we prepare and support not just our clients, but our staff to keep connected and meaningful connections? So I thank you for sharing today from your heart. It's so nice to see you. And I hope everyone will be able to use this conversation and maybe even use some of the questions that we've talked about today, use it for their own meaningful connections at work and at home. So thanks everyone for joining in, and
For having me.
we'll see you soon.